everywhere, GBS. Hello viewer, today we are discussing about addiction, and I am Lucy Wansa Kariuki, and we have special guests in the house, and so I would like to welcome them to the show so that they can introduce themselves. I am going to start with the lady first. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello viewers. Mrs. Rose Kivati. I'm a youth mentor, I'm a pastor, and I'm a mother and a wife. Thank you.
Hello viewers, my name is Edwin Nyota. I'm a psychologist, an addiction counselor, and an addiction trainer. Welcome.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
To our viewer, addiction is a problem that has faced many people in our societies, families, children in schools, and we are here to deliberate more and be able to understand what addiction really is. There are so many types of addiction, but today we are going to measure on drug addiction. So I am going to start with our psychologist, Edwin, who is going to help us to understand what is this we call addiction and what are the signs and symptoms. Welcome, Edwin.
Thank you. Thank you once more. Now, when we talk about addiction, addiction is not just, because many people tend to think that addiction is only for drugs and alcohol and, chemical substances. But addiction comprises of two things. Addiction comes in two types. One we call chemical addiction, which involves addiction of chemical substances. Mm-hmm. For example, you can have alcohol, you can have marijuana, that is cannabis. You can also have things like miraa, you can have things like opioids, which includes morphine and things like heroin. But you also have another type of addiction called process addiction, or what we call behavioral addictions. And these behavioral addictions comprises of things like gambling addiction, things like sex addiction, pornography addiction, and all sorts of behaviors that we engage in, which primarily activates our reward circuit in the brains. Mm-hmm. And now when you talk about addiction, now that I've mentioned the brain, addiction is according to the disease model, addiction is a chronic relapsing brain disease which is characterized by compulsive drug seeking or compulsive engaging in a behavior, which later causes the brain to be the body to be dependent on that activity or that drug. Mm-hmm. So addiction is a chronic relapsing brain disease, mm-hmm. which is characterized by compulsive drug seeking and drug abuse.
Wow, yeah. Thank you so much, yes. Edwin. Very tough terms there for the viewer, which mm-hmm. I would like you to expound a bit before we proceed. Mm-hmm. You've talked of compulsive. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by compulsive? You are also talking of dependency. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by dependency?
Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at that definition, when we say that it's a chronic relapsing brain disease, now, yes. The same way we have chronic illnesses, and allow me to use the example of an illness like diabetes, mm-hmm. or an illness like hypertension. Yes. The same way we say, when you say an illness is chronic, it means that it cannot be cured. Mm-hmm. However, it can be managed.
Yes.
Okay. So when we say addiction is chronic, it means that once it sets in, or once someone is dependent or addicted to a certain chemical substance, mm-hmm. or we call them psychoactive substances, mm-hmm. it means that these individuals' addiction cannot be cured. You cannot cure an addiction, mm-hmm. but however you can manage it. And management now maybe involves, through counseling and through treatment. Management can come through acquired skills, for example. I'll use an example of problem-solving skills,
yes.
or even something as simple as anger management, because, or even stress management, because now you find that many people, once they are frustrated, or when someone is stressed, the only way out is through the bottle. That is through drinking or even smoking. And when we say the other thing is compulsive. When we say it's compulsive drug seeking, this means that this individual has no choice. Okay, you have no choice other than to seek the drug. You are compelled to take this substance. You are compelled to engage in a certain activity, for example, gambling. And another thing maybe I can add onto that is that when we say it's a brain disease, through frequent or constant administration of a substance, it changes. In our brains, we have a part called the reward circuit in our brains. And this part of the brain is what controls pleasure. It's activated by pleasure-producing activities and all psychoactive substances. Yes. So eventually the brain chemicals, we have brain chemicals that are produced in large amounts once we administer certain drugs or once we use certain drugs. So over time and time again, when we administer these drugs, the brain learns how to be dependent onto these drugs.
Wow,
yeah.
Thank you so much. So one thing I understand is that once you start using this drug, continuous use makes you not able to stay without the substance,
yes,
without that particular drug. Yes. And this is what you are calling dependency.
Yes.
You cannot be able to survive without the drug.
Yes.
Before you take us through the journey of addiction, let me invite the other guest, Rose, to be able to explain to us, do these problems occur in your day-to-day work when you are dealing with the adolescents? Do you find them engaging in addiction, or this is a thing of the old men?
Thank you. I want to say that this happens. It is happening everywhere in the family, in places of work.
Yes.
Outside there, it is actually a plague, and everybody is crying. I work with schools, and I engage so much with the young people, and everywhere children are engaged, and it has advanced so much such that if you are not careful, even as a parent, you may never know that your child is abusing substance. You may never know that your spouse is abusing substance, because there are substances that don't have that physical thing that you can use to detect. And studies are affected. People are in church and they are struggling. It is a cry everywhere.
Wow, thank you so much. And Edwin,
yes,
can you take us through the journey of addiction? It has to start somewhere.
Yes.
One time someone was okay until something happened. Take us through that journey.
Okay. Addiction, according to various sources, but generally addiction has around 4 or 5, I'll mention 5 stages. Like you said, addiction doesn't pop out of nowhere. It has to be a start, a genesis of this journey. You call it journey, sometimes you call it the addiction process or the process of addiction. In the first stage, it's called experimental stage. And during the experimental stage, maybe I can mention quickly, is that this is a stage where this individual just uses it, for example, curiosity. She mentioned that, my colleague here mentioned that she works with students in schools. Look at this boy or this girl in high school that decides to, taste out of curiosity, or even because of company, peer pressure, just decides, I want to know how marijuana tastes like, or how do you feel when you smoke it? How do you feel when you drink? So that could be one of the reasons. You experiment, you're just using it for curiosity, or just, sometimes we call it the thrill for adventure. And the second stage, we call it the social stage. Now, once someone experiments on the drug, mostly how they experience it, the first experience, and sometimes, I normally joke this with my students when I train. You know how we parents tell our kids, hey, don't smoke weed, don't smoke cannabis, you may go mad. Or we call it schizophrenia, we call it mad. So, or even alcohol. Someone might taste it for the first time and feel it's not taste. Alcohol doesn't have a good taste, especially the spirits. But something like marijuana, someone might smoke it, and the first experience is it's euphoric, it's nice. So they may decide to use it again and again. The experience might be contrary to what these students have been warned. So the social stage now is using it for recreational purposes, or they may be using this drug in social occasions. Sometimes we call it the social use, also called this occasional use, We may call it occasional use or social use. So this is where this individual may use this drug in events like birthday parties, for example, in weddings, in those social gatherings, even in events like burial ceremonies, okay? And so this individual may be using it in recreation, for just to have fun. But remember, this individual is out of the experimental stage. Now, it's good that I mentioned that in the experimental stage and the social stage or occasional use, there isn't dependence. The dependence has not yet kicked in. Now, the third stage, it's called the instrumental stage. And in the instrumental stage, this is where the individual learns how to use this drug to deliberately or to intentionally seek euphoria. Okay, this individual might use the drug to intentionally alter the mood because, for example, he might be bored and he's seeking for that euphoria. And remember what I mentioned earlier, this individual might use the drug for the first time, experimenting, and the experience might be so pleasurable. And the individual now uses it to just seek that euphoria. And the individual might also use this drug to get rid of unpleasant emotions. For example, someone might be stressed, someone might be even boredom may apply here. Someone might be frustrated, and this person learns that using this drug takes away the stress or takes away the anxiety. So this individual might use the drug to deal with these problems, and that's why we need to help to help people generally learn how to deal with stress in a healthy way. And the fourth stage, which is now the onset of addiction, we call it the habitual use. And the habitual use, this is where the individual learns that if I don't take this substance, I'm having what we call withdrawal symptoms. Now, this individual has no choice now, because the fifth stage, we call it the compulsive use, whereby this individual has no choice. And there's something we normally call the switch in the addiction language, lack of a better word. There's something called the switch. And the switch means that this person, the pleasure seeking, originally the individual was using the substance to seek pleasure. But now things have turned, and now things have changed, and this person has no choice but to use this substance. Otherwise, they will they will experience withdrawal symptoms, and they are very, very unpleasant. Very unpleasant. Okay? For someone who uses alcohol, for instance, they may experience what we call delirium tremens. They may, shaking. Sometimes they may, other drugs may cause seizures. Others may cause headache, terrible headache. Others may cause pain in the joints. Hallucinations. So these withdrawal symptoms are very, very unpleasant, and this person has to use it. Okay? So. And something else maybe I should mention is that in drugs, for example, like opiates or what we call opioids, which include morphine, these are drugs derived from the opium plant. Drugs like morphine, drugs like heroin, and others like codeine, their addiction may progress quicker or faster. Yeah. For example, a drug like heroin. At times, you may not have, this person may not have to go through all these stages. Okay, there have been cases where an individual have experimented on heroin, for example, and progressed into compulsive use very fast, very quick. Drugs like alcohol, for example, they may take a longer time.
Okay.
Even 5 years, sometimes even 10 years.
Wow, thank you so much, Edwin. This is very encouraging because at least we understand that addiction is not a one-stop or one-day journey. It takes a process. Now, Madam Rose, do you think, having worked with the youth, with families, that there is a way we can interrupt these stages from going to the complete stage?
Thank you for that question.
Yes.
Actually, yes. Because when I look at life in the biblical perspective,
Yes.
life is sacred. Life has a beginning. You begin from some point, and as you walk the journey of life, there are questions you will answer, and eventually you realize that as you grow, you encounter challenges. When you become a family person or you are a child in a family, you also encounter challenges. We have challenges with the families we are coming from. We encounter challenges when we join the schools that we join. We encounter challenges every time we get into a new avenue in life. And I have realized that people are doing all sorts of things to answer questions in life. And when we intervene in the youth mentorship programs that we do, we try to dig deeper and to see what is the cause of this behavior. And therefore, there are underlying causes which are pushing whoever is abusing the drugs, whoever is addicted, how they started, why. And when you speak with the youths, they will give you stories, they will tell you stuff. And now, at that point in time, you help them to solve out those problems, now soberly. Because indulging in drugs is like diverting, it's like jumping over, it's like dodging.
A shortcut.
And life is real.
Yes.
Life is real, challenges are real, and there is no shortcut to encountering what is facing you in life. But you see, depending on the people in your circle, depending on your associates, depending on your beliefs, and the people you allow in the circle of your life, they will always give you that solution. That is why we intervene to tell them drugs will not answer the questions. Drugs will not give you the solutions. Actually, you will jump from the frying pan to the fire.
Wow.
It will get worse and worse. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. We understand that we can be able to interrupt this process of addiction. And before we continue, Edwin, kindly can you take us through the signs and symptoms of these people and briefly the predisposing factors to addiction?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. And first of all, I concur with her. I concur with her that drugs is not the answer. Okay, it's not the answer, especially stress management. We are living in a time of COVID. COVID has affected many people. Many people might think that drinking is the way to deal with it. It's not. Actually, it exacerbates the problem on top of a problem. Now, signs and symptoms of addiction. And this is addiction on, it cuts across, we call them diagnostic criteria according to the DSM-5. It cuts across all addictions, all drug addictions. Now, the number one thing is something we call tolerance, okay? Tolerance in this context. In this context, it means that this person needs more of the substance to achieve the desired effect. In this case now, to achieve the high, in quotes, the high. This means that someone
more of the effect, more of the substance, more of the drug. For example, now if it is cocaine, you need more of cocaine to feel the same way you felt yesterday.
Exactly. Initially, you may have taken, for example, you may have taken a shot of whiskey. 2 shots of whiskey, you're okay. Eventually, time and time, you'll realize that you'll need more. Say 10 shots. Sometimes you may even need a whole bottle of whiskey, to get high. That's what it means. The next thing, or the next symptom is, the next symptom is withdrawal. And this person may realize that, like I mentioned earlier, if I don't take this substance, or this, say for example, cocaine, or even heroin, I'm experiencing unpleasant physiological and psychological reactions, okay? Whereby you need this substance in order to cure, in quotes, to cure your symptoms. Because to this individual, it's as if he or she is sick, okay? For example, someone with heroin withdrawal, they may experience terrible withdrawal symptoms. They experience pain in the joints. They may have runny nose, for example, and they may even start shivering. And once they administer, and surprisingly, once they administer the drug, they look okay. It's as if the disease have gone away. The next one is this person, we have what we call social, occupational, and all those responsibilities, they are given up. This person gives up all those important social and occupational tasks. They give them away. For example, someone doesn't even care about the family. This person may go drinking, and maybe they don't have much finances. For example, money for rent or money for basic needs, food, they give them up so that they can fund their drinking or their drug use. Another symptom could be unsuccessful attempts to cut down or to control the drug use, or even to stop. Okay, and this person, and that's a very common characteristic in most people with drug dependence. They may try as much as possible to stop or even to cut down. They may even try to drink, say, twice a week, or use the drug twice a week, or even once a day, but they can't. Okay, so remember the switch has already happened that I mentioned earlier. So this person has no choice but to use the drug. And maybe one last I can mention is that the person continues to use the substance in spite of obvious physical problem, health problem, legal problems, social problems, for example, marriage problems, relationship problems. They continue to use the substance in spite of all these, the evidence of all these problems.
Wow, thank you so much, Edwin.
Yes.
We are really learning a lot from the signs and symptoms that we can be able to recognize that this is real addiction. This is not just business as usual. You are watching Health Talk Show from GBS TV Africa, and we are going for a short break. Stay tuned. We shall get back.
Ekomziki right here on your number one TV station, GBS TV. My good name is Hypola the Experience. You can call me Moja Safu. Kumazel, the best TV ever. Lafu Shoni Gani, Ekomziki, SMS line 21144.
Tunakuchezea zile ngoma mpya zenye zimekuwa zikitokea hii wiki.
Anytime ulizia vila God nikulia na wakinigeuzia. I know you got me, girl. Yeah, you got me, girl.
Kautam nikisa maneno nasikia kautam ati wanauliza gospel ime
muziki kali, tuko na countdown kali. Yaani kila kitu leo iko fresh. Chukua sharubati, hiyo ni juice hapo, mpaka nguju ya meza.
Triple.
Yeah.
Tumia mtu salamu pale mali unakulanga chapo dogo.
Nani mimi? Walifunga.
Hello guys, this is the 77%, the platform for Africa's youth to debate issues and share ideas.
You know, on this channel, we are not afraid to touch on delicate topics.
Africa's population is growing fast. Why is African identity so important?
Why are we so religious?
What is the relationship between religion and corruption in African countries? Let's hear hear what you have to say.
Let the discussion begin.
Young people have felt for the longest time that they were not part of the conversation.
And we want to find out why.
Poverty is poverty. It's not about where you come from. It's about trying to survive, and everybody's trying to survive. It doesn't matter what country you come from.
How come the dress code rules are for the women and not for the men?
It is not fair.
You belong to society.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, no.
So yeah, looks like we're all ready for a fight, hasn't it?
They don't know the hard living that we are going through.
Okay.
They don't know.
So I guess in a lot of ways we still have a long way to go.
And young people clearly have the solutions.
The future belongs to you.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back, viewer. This is Health Talk Show. We are discussing addiction. Remember, our SMS line is 21144. That is our SMS line. And our YouTube channel is GBS TV Africa. And our Facebook page is GBS TV Africa. If you have any questions or anything to ask to us, you can be able to reach us through those lines. We are continuing with the show, and we are going to discuss more on addiction. And now I am going to engage our guest, Edwin, who will be taking us through the complications of addiction.
Thank you very much for once more for that question. And complications of addiction, which is chronic substance abuse. There are so many. First of all, we have physical, biological. We also have social. We also have occupational, psychological. I can quickly mention one of the physical complication.
When we talk of complications, what are we really talking about? Because I'm sure our viewer there is eagerly waiting to know what are these things we are calling complications. And before you take us through complications, I would like Madam Rose to tell us some of the contributing factors to addiction.
Thank you.
Yes.
We started by saying that drug addiction, drug use, drug abuse is real. We said it is happening everywhere. In our houses, people are coming to church, drug. People going to work, drug. And it is everywhere. The stuff is everywhere. In the streets, everywhere. Even young children are trafficking the stuff. Even madmen in the market. People you can't suspect.
Yes.
And I will first say the family background can be one contributing factor to drug abuse or drug addiction. We have families where taking alcohol and stuffs is not anything, it's a norm. And when a child grows from that environment, it will be too difficult for somebody out there to tell them it is not okay. Because maybe the first person who introduced them to the stuff is the father. They would drink after eating, some wine for the stomach, some alcohol for partying. And by extension, you find that this thing becomes the normal life. So the family thing, the family place. And you can also find that the stuff may not be really happening like something normal in the family, but the father or the mother can be taking some drugs. For example, we have sleeping pills. We have fathers who are alcoholic, and these things get into the system.
So what you're trying to tell us is that the orientation, the first instant that you're getting this drug can be in the family setting.
Oh, yes.
And this can not necessarily under stress or under pressure.
No.
It is just like the norm for that particular family.
Normally as if it is okay.
Okay.
And you find that the voice to say no is not that strong.
Yes.
Because you can't give what you don't have. If the parent is put down by this problem, you don't have the guts to tell your daughter or your son, no, don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now the family setup becomes one of the first important contributing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it becomes so difficult to handle a person who has gotten it from the family. Because how will you tell them that it is not okay? They may struggle with the addiction, they may struggle to withdraw, they may struggle to stop. But the time span and the life they have walked, they find it difficult
to stop.
Yes. When it is in your blood system, you don't struggle starting. You just feel the urge and the need, and you find yourself there. When we are going for family parties, for family rituals, and these things, even the other place where you can get yourself hooked into the thing is some of the religious groups where taking alcohol, taking wine may not be a problem anyway.
Social gatherings.
Yes. And also the peer pressure where everybody is doing it. Like I said, it is happening everywhere. So you're like, I'm the old one out. That pressure is too much.
Yes.
Even if you're coming from a clean family, you are pushed. You're between a hard place and a rock, and you find yourself wanting to become like everybody else. The environmental factor where you are surrounded by the stuff. You are the only one who is not doing it. It is like the one who is not sniffing, the one who is not drinking is like abnormal.
Wow.
So the pressure is too much.
It's too much.
And maybe I can add something on that.
Yes.
Think about these teenagers, especially,
Peer
who
pressure.
exactly on top of peer pressure. Think about the way they use the smoking marijuana, for example, as a way of fitting in into their peer. So, like she's saying here, if you don't smoke, then you don't belong to us, or if you don't smoke, then you're not as cool. You're not as cool as we are. Yeah. Exactly. Think about that teenage girl who has a teenage boyfriend, and this teenage boyfriend, their way of living, for example, in their home, is drinking wine, for example, drinking some whiskey. We have families where they have a bar in the house. Yeah. So this dad tells the girl or the boy, hey, serve me some whiskey. Give me a shot of whiskey there. So this boy, remember, he has a girlfriend somewhere who has never even smoked or even drunk some alcohol. So this girlfriend may feel the pressure that I need to be like my boyfriend. Otherwise, he may dump me or leave me and take another girl who is as cool as he is or drink as he is. Yeah, just on top of.
Yes. And then we have the social media. We have the advertisements where they advertise it as cool and good, and you can love it. You can feel like testing it. It is pulling you if you're not strong morally. They will not advertise alcohol as anything bad. They will not advertise smoking as anything bad. They will post it as something that is stylish.
Yes.
Something that is the normal lifestyle, and for people who are in a class of their own, you know.
Okay.
And then somebody will find it interesting and they may be tempted to try. We have the celebs. The celebs, like people in the music industry, entertainment industry, they are doing it, and the one that is viewing may not know that they are struggling to leave the stuff, may not know they are trying to cover up an issue, and they will see as if it is the lifestyle, and following that person as a model.
Yes.
That celeb, you'll find yourself doing what they are doing, following after what they are doing, and you find yourself hooked. Then also there is the pressure, the stress point, where you can be stressed because of an exam, you can be stressed because of a disease, you can be stressed because of a life issue, and then you think it is a relief. It is a relief, and like what my brother said, when you are starting, you don't know that it is not easy to come out. You just find yourself taking the other step, and the other step is you get closer to your grave. Actually, it is to your grave because it is an illness, it is a disorder, it is something complicated.
Okay, thank you so much.
Allow me to quickly add something on what she said. You see this advertisement. I wish they would show, even if it's a video or a picture of someone who is in alcohol dependency. You see the way they warn people, it doesn't even take, it takes even less than 3 seconds to say excessive consumption of alcohol is harmful to your health. Don't drink and drive. They say it in a very fast, very fast.
In fact, we don't hear it.
You don't even hear it properly. I wish they would show a family, because I've seen families affected by alcoholism. If people would see it, maybe they would at least say something extra, you know, or even say it properly. And something maybe to add on what she said, one of the causes, we have genetics, hereditary, okay? There's evidence that, especially something like alcoholism, it's hereditary. And something else, cultural practices, quickly, for example.
Edwin, I would like to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You're saying it is hereditary, which means it runs in families.
In the family, yes.
Don't you think that one looks somehow old? Because I can't, for example, like me, with my knowledge of genetics, with genes running in that particular family, I wouldn't say so. Maybe now, you are here to tell us because you are the expert. Why am I saying so? Because I'm looking at a family whereby the father is an addict of a certain drug. And now the children have followed the footsteps, not because of their family lineage, but because of exposure.
Thank you for that question. And I'll answer it this way. When you say it's genetic, it does not mean that now you are doomed or you are bound to be an alcoholic. Remember, there are several factors that come into play. Okay? In this, allow me to use an example of a homestead where you have this, let me use the dad. The dad is the alcohol dependent person. Now that automatically might just dictate that his children, whether male or a female, a girl or a boy, will definitely be alcoholic. Remember, there are several factors that will come into play. For example, environmental factors. Okay, and let me use another example of a family that the business is say brewing illicit, for example, illicit changa. We call it changa here. This person, because of his or her high exposure, the chances of engaging in the drinking is relatively higher. Think about a person who's another cause of addiction is occupation. Now, this person might be, and I'm saying occupation because people who engage in a work environment that is stressful or even traumatizing. Think of a person in the KDF, for example, you know, the soldiers, or what else? People who work in wines and spirit, people who work in clubs and bars. Since they are exposed, they have a higher chance of engaging in the drinking. I use the example of people in the KDF, for example, because they are traumatized. They are traumatized frequently. Okay, when for example, if you see your body there is dead, shot or something, so they have a higher chances of engaging in the drug. Now, because you are genetically predisposed, it does not mean that you automatically become alcoholic. But if you expose yourself, if you have environmental stressors or you're exposed, you might engage in the drug. But now this is what it means. If you're genetically predisposed, it means that if you engage in the drinking or the drug, the chances of falling into addiction is higher, is quicker. Another cause is gender, for example. Generally, there's evidence that women, the female gender, tends to progress quicker into addiction than male. Okay, they tend to, their progression is somehow it's quicker. They fall faster than the male. In fact, even the physiological causes or the physiological effects of drugs, they tend to progress quicker than in the men.
To add on that, when you're talking about the genetic thing, it will mean that you will not struggle with it. Like, it will not happen as to a fresher. Somebody in whose blood there is no intoxication. When it is in your blood, you are in a situation where you should take care. You should be more careful because you won't struggle with it. If you joke around, it will just happen without struggle.
It will happen without struggle. So thank you so much for that discussion of contributing factors. And we understand that we are all at risk of indulging into addiction. And for that, what are some of the complications? Because somebody watching us there is like, so what? Even if I'm him. Well, they need to understand briefly what are some of the things that they may face that those who are not addicted will not face, the complications.
Thank you very much for that question. And for our viewers, I hope they get this, because drugs like alcohol, you know, in Kenya we live in a country where people tend to praise alcohol so much. In the songs, she mentioned something about the songs, our celebrities. Even the songs, people sing for marijuana, for example, okay? And remember cultural practices like an example of Rastafarian community. There is spirituality that is connected with it. But look at something like alcohol. It's one of the drugs that lead to illnesses like cardiovascular illnesses. Cardiovascular illnesses, that is the disease connecting to the heart and the circulatory system. Marijuana and nicotine. Nicotine in the cigarette smoking. Nicotine is an active compound in tobacco. It has been attributed to illnesses of the heart, lung cancer, for example. And remember I mentioned that alcohol, that if complications of drugs may be categorized in physical and psychological and social. Alcohol, for example, look at issues in the family unit, things like domestic violence, sexual assaults, even parents, for example, a dad and a daughter.
Yes.
You've had cases of that. Homicides, you know, you have all over the news these days we hear of spousal fights leading to death, stabbing, you know, strangling, all those.
Which could be due to drugs.
Exactly, due to drugs, you know. Psychological, the drugs leads to psychiatric symptoms or psychiatric condition. For example, marijuana has
mental disorders.
Mental disorder, exactly. Marijuana has been connected to schizophrenia, which in the layman's term we call it, you know, insanity. Sleep disorders, especially sleep disorders, things like insomnia. Think about, there's a classification
Insomnia
of...
means the inability
to sleep, to initiate sleep or even maintain sleep. Especially these drugs in the classification called central nervous system stimulants. I'll give an example of Mira, amphetamines, cocaine, and caffeine. Nicotine is also there.
Edwin, what you're trying to tell us is that everything has a consequence.
Exactly.
And this is why even the one who is continuously using the drug should be able to understand that if you are not getting out of it, we are not lying to you. It may be that you will get some diseases, you will lose some family relationships, and you are going to be able to have some disorders like those ones of the mind. In short, it has consequences. Now that someone is in it, suppose you are in it and you need to get out of it, tell that viewer, what are you going to get out of this addiction? Yes.
Before you even go there,
yes.
It is some of the problems that we may face may not feel as big as we may think. One, it consumes your time. And remember, I started by saying life is an assignment, and a tough one for this matter. Everybody has a dream to achieve. Everybody has a purpose to pursue. And again, we are in the image and the likeness of God. He's watching us at us to portray that image, the ability to subdue, the ability to rule, the ability to become what He created us to become. My brother said it is complex. It is a disease. It is a disorder. A person with a disorder can't achieve life goals. A person with a disorder can't live peacefully with people in the family, in the society. You can't perform as a student. If I am a mother and I'm addicted, I can't relate with my husband. We have so many broken marriages. We have so many single parents. Divorces are the toll of the day. And children are hurting because everybody is doing what they want. We are not independent. I need you. I can't, we need to coexist.
We need each other. It's a system.
And so some of the problems that are posing when it comes to addiction and all these things, they may not seem so big, but they are so bad. Where you find that a person who loses their way in life at teenage, you can imagine the mess they will go through before they become a parent. If that person becomes a parent, you can imagine the messy parent he or she will be to the child. If you employ that person, for example, in a place like here, you can imagine the mess. And it also consumes money.
Yes.
And money is so scarce. Everybody is working hard to get money, only to burn it down, only to spend it recklessly. And life is serious. We have this body once.
Yes.
A heart, we have one heart, a pair of lungs. You know, even our body is a scarce resource. So if I damage my body, what will happen to me? The lifespan may seem like it is short, but when you're struggling with stuff, you can feel as if you have lived for 1,000 years on this planet Earth.
What a wonderful piece of
advice. It is bad, it is evil, and again we are answerable to God. We are answerable to our families, to our children, to our employers. We are answerable, and we can't deviate or take shortcuts. We need to face life soberly.
Thank you so much, Madam Rose. For sure, life is an assignment that we must complete at the end of the day. So, Edwin, kindly tell us briefly how we are going to get out of addiction.
Now, thank you for that question, because someone might be wondering, now that I'm in the chains, sometimes they call it the chains of addiction, how do I get out of them? And I'll say this in connection with what she has said, a quick mention, since I feel like I did not point out all the effects. She said that sometimes we take things for granted. There are some things we take for granted. For example, you know, things like sexual performance, especially in the marriage. Something you think it's something, it's an obvious thing. You know, drug use has been attributed, especially things like alcohol and cigarette, that is tobacco and nicotine. They eventually cause, you know, erectile dysfunction, for example, in men. Things like mirror has been attributed to, you know,
impotence. Exactly,
in men. And in women, they also affect it because dryness. Now, even occupational, they even cause a lot. Drugs have also no performance in the workplace, school. Think about this student in school, school dropout. Eventually, it may even lead to homelessness and prostitution. You know, So that's what I wanted to mention. Now that we are talking about addiction, the way to get out, first of all, is to seek help. And even before you seek help, actually, acceptance is the first thing. Acceptance. Accept, by the way, I'm in these chains. I cannot get out of it. You know? And because there are many ways you can deal with it. For example, the obvious one is to seek help in a treatment facility. The layman's term, we call them rehabilitation centers. Okay. Sometimes, depending on how many issues accompany the dependence, because you may have physiological complications. For example, in alcohol-dependent individuals, it's common to find that they also have liver complications. Sometimes even kidneys. Heavy smokers, they may have lung problems. Of course, you have to be treated that physiological condition. However, you may seek help from a professional, an addiction counselor. Also, you may seek help from a family therapist, because we normally say addiction is a family disease. So you may also seek help from a family therapist. Okay.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Maybe a complete detoxification is also part of the treatment program, especially in almost all drugs, but alcohol to be particular. Detoxification is the first process, and this one helps to get rid of withdrawal symptoms. Then you go through the rehabilitation process.
Wow, thank you so much, Edwin.
I will add personal discipline.
Exactly.
You need to discipline yourself
and
go through accepting that I'm in it, accepting that I need help, accepting that I can't help myself out, and disciplining yourself to stop, to fight.
Thank you so much, our beautiful guests, for the discussion of today. we understand that addiction is real. Addiction is not theoretical, it is practical. It is with our family members, with our children. And the best way to get out of it is first to accept, then move out. Be able to get us through the next show of alcohol addiction now that we are done with drug. Remember our SMS line at 21144. Our YouTube channel is GBS TV Africa, and our Facebook page is GBS TV Africa. Keep it tuned here. This was Health Talk Show, and I was your host, Lucy Wanza Kariuki. Bye.